about a minute early because we have quite a crowd here. But tonight we have the McKay Public School Choir to sing "O Canada" for us, and then regale us with perhaps a few Christmas carols as well. They're under the direction of Mr. Steve Tempest. Thank you for coming back, Steve. And at this stage, perhaps we could start with "O Canada," and we will I'll follow your lead. Everyone, please stand for his flag. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you very much. Perhaps we can sit down while we listen to some Christmas carols.
I'll fix that. See you.
Walking away to Wonderland in the Thinking about it on my drive in here, that my choir and the city council here have something in common. They both believe in something. You guys believe in Christmas, and you believe in what Christmas is all about. You've given up your time, lots of your breaks to come. You've given up your night here to come and spread some Christmas cheer because you believe in other people and making their Christmas a little bit brighter. I know that. I know it. Also, you believe in time off school, but that's for tomorrow. But that's another story. You believe in Christmas, and you love to spread the Christmas cheer. We were at Porto Village, we were at Northland Point, we're here at City Council, we're at Seaway Mall tomorrow. We're going to be at the pub next door this Saturday. If you got nothing to do, come out at 7 o'clock and hear them again. They believe in the Christmas spirit. But to my choir, we're here with some other people, singing for other people that also believe in something. They believe in this lovely city of Port Colborne. And they give up their time and their energy and their passions to see the betterment of this lovely city. And so we're very grateful that you've invited us to come. We believe in Christmas, you believe in Port Colborne, and we're all trying to give our best. That's why we're here tonight. We wish you the best with your meeting. We have one more song, and we're going to end this thing with some stuff.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring for you and your king. Good tidings for Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring for you and your king. Good tidings for Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Well, if you weren't in a festive mood before tonight, there's no question you're there now, thanks to this choir. Mr. Tempest, we appreciate you bringing all the gang, and we appreciate the numbers that you got with us tonight, and they made a huge impression on City Council. Thank you very much again. We're going to have half the choir will exit out that door, and Mrs. Butters, Councillor Butters, will give a little gift, and the other half from this side will exit this door, and hopefully it'll be an orderly exit, and we'll just have about a 3-minute break before we move into the council meeting. What's your name? What's your name? Mia? Nice to meet you, Mia. Any addendum items this evening?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
And entertain a motion to confirm the agenda. Moved by Councillor Desmarais, second by Councillor Butters. All those in favor? Carried. Are there any disclosures of interest tonight? There being none noted, the record will indicate that. At this time, I think I'd ask for permission from council to change the order of the agenda to deal with our Christmas card winners. If there's no objection to that, then we will. Good idea? Okay. At this time, we'd like to deal with our Christmas card winners. As you are well aware, I'd like to thank the participants in this program. It's an annual program that we have, and I noticed there's a young lady here who has to get to a hockey game, so we're going to try to be really quick. I'd like to thank all the children who participated. We had over several hundred applicants, so you can appreciate it was a tough decision. Tonight, as you can see by the poster boards here, we have some great artists among us. Their drawings were blown up and put on their poster boards and displayed on the City of Port Colborne's float in the annual Christmas parade. Each of you will be taking home your upsized drawing. For the front of the card, we chose a drawing by Danielle Adam, a grade 7 student at Oakwood Public School. Her drawing shows Santa and his reindeer flying over the Welland Canal and Clarence Street Bridge, a typical Port Colborne scene. Danielle included bright, vivid colors and lots of detail. Danielle, can you please come forward? We've also taken all the Christmas cards and put them on in a framed picture here, including the ones, including the lucky winners. So Danielle, congratulations on being the grand winner. That was a great card that you did, and maybe you could put that on your wall. It might be a little bit better than the. And we also have 10 cards for our recipients.
On the other side.
Yeah, we'll get a group picture if we can.
You can stand right in front of your picture.
Next, we have Marissa Neese, a grade 6 student at the École Saint-Joseph, who provided us with a bilingual drawing of a ship passing under the bridge with Santa and his reindeer in the distance. Marissa, can you please come up? Congratulations, and we hope you do well tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There's some cards. And if you could just wait for a minute, we'll get this real quick, so we'll have a picture taken. Next, we have Memphis Rhodey, who is a grade 6 student at Oakwood Public School. He drew a picture of a house with a family and Santa, as well as including a nativity scene and the city's logo. Memphis, congratulations. If you could just go stand by your picture as well. And there are some of the pictures, Christmas cards for you to send to your friends and family. Next, we have Emma Croteau, another grade 6 student at Oakwood Public School. Emma's picture is a winter scene of the Welland Canal and Bridge 21. That's the Clarence Street Bridge. Emma, can you come forward, please? Congratulations, Emma. You did a great job. And there are some Christmas cards. And finally, we have Constance McGrattan, a grade 6 student at École Saint-Joseph. Constance gave us a Christmas tree drawing with the city's logo, website, and another bilingual message. Can you come forward, please, Constance? Congratulations. Thank you. And now if we could have a group session with the press, perhaps can make a picture, take a picture.
Maybe they should turn around that little one. Everybody's scooching together, how's that? More scooching. Can we have the three of you sort of try to pictures around like that? Yeah.
Any family wants to pop up here?
They can take their pictures with us.
Yeah, Marissa.
Good luck.
Thank you, thank you.
Now we'll return to our agenda. Any comments? Were there any disclosures of interest this evening? I being none. I call for motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of Committee of the Whole, 22-16, held on November 28, 2016. Madam Butters and Madam Kenny. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Move on to determination of items requiring separate discussion. Mrs. Butters?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 1, please.
And that's it?
Yes, sir.
Next, Madam Demeray,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 13, please.
item 13. Is that it? Alderman Maine?
2 and 8.
2 and 8. Thank you. To my left. We're all good? Okay. Can I call for a motion to approve those items that do not require separate discussion? Moved by Councilor Maine, second by Councilor Doucette. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now, we have another presentation this evening. If I can find it here. Each year, an organization called Athletic Business Media publishes its listing of facilities of merit, recognizing outstanding sports and recreation facilities. I'm extremely pleased to announce to the community that Valet Health and Wellness Center has received a 2016 Facility of Merit Award. We have a short video for you to play. Watch the screen, please.
The majority of judges specifically mentioned the Vail Health and Wellness Center's innovative and creative use of pre-engineered structural elements, providing value for the available budget. These long-span components are geometrically manipulated to generate the required heights for activity, ranging from ice sports to aquatics, all while projecting a clarity of purpose, according to one panelist. Stated another, To be able to deliver a project of this quality for $180 per square foot is remarkable.
I would like to thank McClellan, Junkins, and Miller Architects for designing the award-winning facility. The judges specifically mentioned the innovative use of pre-engineered structural elements as worthy of praise, providing noteworthy value for the available budget, and according to one judge, a great asset to the community. Another judge remarked to be able to deliver, as you heard on the video, to be able to deliver a project with this quality for $180 per square foot is remarkable. It has been almost 4 years since we opened the doors of the Valley Health and Wellness Center, and it continues to be a hub for the community, with families gathering for a wide range of activities. We have a plaque here, which I'd like to present perhaps to Mr. Hakeem, and this will probably be pointing a finger. Perhaps Mr. Hanson? Let's close it. Anyways, this will be displayed in our Valet Center for the citizens to enjoy and appreciate. Ron, if I can present this to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Okay. Turning to the business of the evening. Item number 1, I call for a mover and a seconder. Mover by Butters and seconded by we will perhaps deal with delegations before we go into the agenda. We have we actually did the first delegation with the kids and their cars, but next is Mr. Michael Menard regarding an invoice he received under the open air burning bylaw. Mr. Menard, can you come forward, and if you could, there's a little button there, red button, if you could push that. Right in the middle of the bar. Right in the middle of the bar.
Good evening. My name is Mike Menard. So I'd like to address the councillors of the City of Port Colborne on an issue that, actually a fine that I received. I received a fine for an open burning ban that it wasn't during the time that it was really dry. The ban had been lifted in this area or anywhere for burning because it was really dry at one time. It occurred on September 16th, the first fire I had. It was a fairly large fire, and it had a lot of like grass on it, weeds, and it was wet because it had rained earlier. So when I went to light the fire, it smoked, and I went to put some dry wood on it to try to get it to burn better. And within 5 minutes, the fire department was at my house. I'm not very far from the fire department. I live on 152 Main Street East. So the fire department came, the 3 gentlemen came, and I had put it out with a hose, and I talked with them, and they gave me a slip of paper afterwards stating that you can't have fires on your property. I just moved here a year ago. I didn't know that you couldn't have an open fire in your backyard. I talked with other neighbors even prior to getting the fire department coming, and they had told me that there are people that have fires in the neighborhood. So, and I had up to that time probably 20 fires myself. I bought that property a year ago, and it was in a mess. There was 33 trees that were put into a pond. They were all wood chipped up. There was dead trees all over the property, and there was mosquitoes everywhere. The people next door to me said we couldn't even go outside. And everybody in my neighborhood's been nice to me. They said, thank you for doing what you're doing. That house has been neglected for years and years and years and years. So I thought if there would be a fire ban or something like that, the fire department would have come a long time ago, because I've been having fires. I bought that house in November, and I've been having fires for quite some time. Throughout the winter, I try to have a fire when I know that the people have the windows closed, or it's not really windy and going to blow in somebody's window throughout the summer. So what happened is I took that fire apart. When the fire department came, I took it all apart. I took all the big chunks of wood, I put them aside, and I had taken all the grass and the weeds and other little pieces of, I had rototilled the whole backyard almost, and I had taken them all and I had put them in little piles about that big, about the size of my two hands put together. And because they were damp, I had raked them and tried to let the air and the sun dry them out. So they were very small little piles. And I was leery about it. A friend of mine says, why don't we just, you know, why don't we burn that, get rid of it, you know? And that's what my intentions were, to burn it anyways, you know, I was thinking to burn it. But he came over with a tank and a torch, and he put the torch on the little piles like that. And we didn't move the torch around from one to the other to the other. We just kept the torch on the little pile until it was burned. And it probably took 2 minutes. And then we'd move to the next little pile like that, and it'd probably take 2 minutes. We got 3 piles, little piles like that burned, and the fire department was there. I couldn't, you know, I was stupid for doing it, probably, you know, but I didn't think for sure this is like, you know, like a fire that is, I'm setting up, throwing wood in it, you know, and just adding more wood to it. And there was no wood at all. It was like tiny little twigs, tiny little wood chips, and grass. I'm not trying to undermine the fire department or anybody. I know it's a very, they risk their lives and their jobs every day they go out into the truck. I appreciate their services like anybody else, and I appreciate the, you know, the services that the city of Port Colborne provide. I've been just trying to clean up that property for a year. If I would have had to go to the dump with all the wood that I had, I split up all the wood. I borrowed a neighbor's log splitter. I split up a whole bunch of wood. I got trees that are this big around that people have come with their machines, charged me a little bit of money, and they've taken them out, put them in their dump trucks, and brought them to the dump and stuff like that. If I would have had to go to the dump with all the branches I had and stuff like that before, I would have probably made 100 trips. And with my little truck, trying to put everything in there, tie it down, bring it to the dump, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Nobody really ever said anything before. And the second fire, I know it was on my fault for having the second fire the way I did, with a torch and standing over it. I'm at your mercy. I just apologize for what I did. I'm asking that if you can't rescind the fine, if you cannot pardon me, that perhaps the amount can be lessened, or else I just got laid off on November 7th. I've been working in Hamilton. I've worked in Hamilton for since 2004 at National Steel Car. And so I just got laid off November 7th, so I was going to ask that if I have to pay this fine, if it's possible that I could pay it in little increments once I get back to work. Maybe we were supposed to start back up hopefully in February, our company, in the new year. The fine was for $565, and there's a fee for, here it says here, for the fire department, the apparatus per hour, along with administration fee and that. I know it was my fault. I feel kind of beside myself. I feel stupid for doing it. And I was saying to myself, I shouldn't be doing this. It's, you know, but at the same time, I couldn't believe that the fire department showed up in 5 minutes and I had burned a couple little piles like that. So, thank you for listening to me, and I don't know what else to say.
Thank you, Mr. Marger.
I'm sorry it happened.
Stay there for a minute. I'll see if any member of council has a question. Any member of council? Mr. Bonder?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the fire chief. Chief, how does the fire department respond to calls? Is it on a complaint basis?
Chief?
Through your worship, council. That's correct. We only go if there's complaints filed through our dispatch office and/or they phone directly to the fire station. And we would go, and we call it a silent alarm. The guys in the station would go without lights and siren to the location and put out the fire. In this particular case, we received a call. It was 5 days in between the two calls. One was on the 16th and the other one was the 21st. And the gentleman's correct in the sense that the second call, the fires were much smaller than what the first one was.
Mr. Bonner?
One more question through you, Mr. Mayor, to our treasurer, Peter. Peter, if someone was unable to pay the fine directly, could they deal with Treasury to have the fine to pay it a little bit at a time?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Bodner, definitely. Just have to contact either myself or our manager of accounting, Stephen Corr, and we would make those arrangements with him.
Madam Emery, then Mr. Elliott. Angie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Chief Cartwright. Chief, just wanted to be absolutely sure that the notice was given on the first time you visited the property, correct?
Through your worship, Councillor, that's correct. The gentleman did receive the notice of violation, and he's indicated that here tonight. He was given written notice that he wasn't to have open fires.
Thank you, Chief. And just one more question for Mr. Sinnes. Peter, I would ask that in this case that we would give as much time as the resident feels that he needs to make these payments.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Demery, yes, we'll work with them as to what works out for him. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter. Admittedly, the first fire you said was extremely smoky when you first started it.
The fire on September 16th,
Yeah.
yes, everything was wet, and I was just been trying to get rid of that for over a year. And like I say, I've had fires every couple of weeks. And I'd usually do it when the weather was kind of like a little bit cool at night and windows were closed, and I'd keep an eye on it. And I've been trying to do that and get rid of it. And the thing that's ironic about it and is sad about it is that my whole property was cleaned up now. I just had those tiny little piles left. I was just trying to get rid of it so that I can straighten out scrape out the rocks and keep the rocks, because I've kept all the rocks off the property. So I had to make a little fence with it or do something with them, put them in a flower garden or whatever. And it's just, it's just sad that there was just tiny little piles so small that somebody either maybe before they had a fire and they got a fine and they just said, I'm calling them because he's got no more wood to burn or nothing left to clean up, and I'm going to get even with them or whatever. I don't know.
So they were just small little piles of stuff?
They were very tiny. Honest, they were this big, and it was spread out because I was letting the sun and the air dry it out because it had rained and I had that fire and I put the hose on it. So I was just trying to dry it out and burn it real quick. I didn't even want to do it. The guy kept on bugging me. Let's have a fire. Let's do it. And he kept on going. And I said yes earlier. I correct myself. I didn't set out to burn it. That wasn't, I said the second fire, I said earlier, it's a mistake on my fault. It's an honest mistake. I didn't set to burn that up. Like this, start it on fire, put it all together and burn it again. It ended up that it was like that. It was drying it out. Even if you take stuff to the dump, you got to pay for weight. So I was just trying to dry it out. And perhaps I had a guy come with a dump truck there and he took a whole big load of the stuff last week, a couple weeks ago.
Okay. Just real quick, through you to Mayor, through you to the chief. The department didn't put out any of the fires, the second one while we were there?
No.
Through your worship, Councillor Elliott, no, the individual involved put the fires out, both of them.
The second fire I didn't have to put out, excuse me. Sorry, I don't want to. The second fire, didn't have to put it out. Didn't have to put the hose on it or nothing. When the fire department came there, they didn't even really know what was burning, and I showed them what I burned. I said, it's right there. That's the size of the fire that was burning.
Okay.
He was very nice to me. The fire department's always been, when they came there, I make it sound like that's a regular occurrence, but they were always very nice to me and very polite and explained, what I should do and what I couldn't do. And he suggested I get a fireplace and put it in my garage or, and type of thing like that. you know, so.
Thank you, Mr.
I didn't have to put the second fire out with a hose. Nobody had to put it out.
Just so that you realize, brush and branches do not cost you anything to bring to the dump.
Yes.
Do not cost you a penny.
Yes.
They go in, they weigh you on the way out, and then they wave to you and say goodbye. Because I just brought 3 loads in about 2 weeks ago.
I just did it last week, too. I
Okay.
cut all my hedges down, and I bound them, too.
It's just a comment you made. I thought maybe you figured you had to pay for them. You don't have to.
No, yes, I understand that now.
Any other comments or questions by members of council? There being none, thank you for your presentation, Mr. Menard.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll get a letter from our clerk setting out what the situation is.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Do you want this off here?
That's okay, we'll have another delegation.
Sorry.
Mr. Hart, your second delegation this evening, would you come forward?
Merry Christmas.
Again, we have roughly 10 minutes. Mr. Hart?
Let me, first of all, congratulate you all for having such a wonderful performance by the children. I love that. I mean, not just having grandchildren and singing and everything else. You deserve a lot of credit for it. Thank you. To the Port Colborne City Council, first of all, let me thank the city clerk for putting me on the agenda tonight. I've appreciated the opportunity to bring my concerns and those of many people who have expressed concerns to the city on this issue. Issue number 1, hunting in Gravelly Bay area of the city. It is not right that the hobby of a few select individuals should be distributing the peace of many. It is unclear what permits allows them or who owns the blinds and those who they allow to use them, but this option is open only to a few individuals they select. In this age of many disturbing gun violent crimes being reported in the news daily, it is frightening to some and disturbing to many that someone should be allowed to discharge firearms in this part of the city. I'm not opposed to hunting in areas away from dwellings, but it's not right that individuals shoot guns off in the core of the city beginning at 6 a.m. and going on all day. It's not right that taxpayers and those in the hospital and Northland Point should be worried about gunshots and worried about where they're coming from. The hunters in the bay do not only hunt from blinds, but they've been seen in boats chasing the birds, and when they get in range, firing from their boats. They have been observed firing dangerously towards the homes of us on the lakeshore, and I personally have saw that time and again. I'm not against hunting. After all, I was a founding member of the Conservation Club in Port Colborne, long before some of you were even born. In fact, I raised pheasants and released them after the hunting season so that they could multiply in the areas of the city. You can stop the hunting in Gravelly Bay by passing a bylaw that stops hunting in the bay areas and prevents hunters from launching their boats from the city land and in the bay, including on the marina. Please, on behalf of all of us who live in the lakeshore front areas, stop the hunting in the bay. How would you like it if a firearm being discharged in your backyard? How would you like it? Issue number 2, a full forensic and operational audit for the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. The concern I have as a taxpayer that I want to raise with you is that the NPCA receives millions of taxpayers' dollars each year and refuses to show the relevant documents for full forensic and operational audit. In fact, they are suing Mr. Smith to prevent the audit, and again, the taxpayers will pay the bill for their lawyers. It is clear to me that if they have nothing to hide, they should agree to an audit to get this matter over with. Mr. Timms, chair of the NPCA, refers to the work that the NPCA has been doing in recent years as leading the province in accountability and transparency. If this is the case, it is difficult to understand why they are refusing an audit and threatening lawsuits with questions about the direction of the agency, taking in including the replacement of some 20 employees. We have a mayor who is on the board of the NPCA. Mr. Maloney should move a motion tonight that as mayor and as a board member, he is demanding that a full forensic and operational audit of the NPCA take place to clear up this mess. We have Mr. Barrick, who's not here tonight, our regional councillor, who should move a motion at the regional council that should be a full forensic and operational audit of the NPCA. And of course, the mayor, if he can't move a motion here, then there are members of the City Council of Port Colborne who can move a motion to support the audit. My conclusion is, if you don't know it, thanks to Cindy Forrester, and she has Wayne Gates, Jim Bradley, St. Catherine City Council, Mayor Jeffs of Wainfleet, all on side wanting an audit to be done. How about you? That's my conclusion.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. If you could just stay there for a minute or two, we may have some questions from members of council. Madam Demery, then Madam Kenny, and then Madam Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to staff, I'm not sure who could answer this, but I did see something that came across email today about whether or not we, as a city, were able to have any impact on what goes on in Gravelly Bay, and I'd like that to be explained further, if possible.
The CAO, yes, the CAO can.
Mr. Hanson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Gravelly Bay, as I indicated earlier, is located on federal land. It's regulated through Environment Canada, and the local Niagara District office of the M&R has supervisory authority in enforcing the Migratory Bird Act. We're informed today that the conservation officers on behalf of M&R do patrol Gravelly Bay on a regular basis, and they do enforce the regulations under the Migratory Bird Act. The season extends from September this year until January the 7th, 2017. There's no setback, as a piece of information, there's no setback from the shoreline in terms of hunting. There's no setback required, and all the hunters are required to possess a valid provincial small game license and a migratory game bird hunting permit issued by Environment Canada, and that's enforced by the environmental officers. In addition, anybody that has any questions about it, I've offered the 1-800-668-6767 line, which is the Environment Canada information line. So anybody that has any questions about the hunting season and specifically to Gravelly Bay, they can call that number and get the information from the governing authority, which is Environment Canada.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. And just one more, through you, Mr. Mayor, again, to Mr. Hart. Thank you so much, Doug, for bringing this to us tonight. I also would be very nervous with guns going off in my backyard. That would make me quite nervous. But unfortunately, I don't think the city has the ability to have, it hasn't any authority over what's going on in Gravelly Bay.
Yes, Mr. Hart.
I said in my response to the shooting, and listening to Mr. Hanson talk about all the authorities. In my day and age, it was a single-barreled shotgun, and then it became 3. There's 8 and 18 shots going off all of the time. Ask the people in that area. It's bang, 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 bang. And the migrating birds, I was, and my wife, with the National Audubon Society for 25 years. And for me to not know about birds, those rangers, you ought to contact them and have them come out and see what they're shooting. And seeing a dead swan laying on my beach, or watching swans that normally there in the summer disappear because they can't trust the shooting that's going on there. That's not migrating birds, and that's not land that ought to be given. We own the property for those boaters to get there. They can't put their boat in the canal and go. They have to go to the marina or over to the restaurant at Mill Lake in order to get out there. And you can stop them and make sure stopping them. It's not a hunting area. Having said that, I would appeal to you again. There's no justification for hunting there. There's all kinds of hunting areas. There's all kinds of geese if they're hungry for geese that look at areas. Not there. It's not right.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Councilor Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to Mr. Hart. Mr. Hart, again, I thank you for coming. Both your concerns are going to be addressed tonight by City Council, the two concerns that you have. I would not feel comfortable either if I lived along there and heard that shots going off all the time. And it's something maybe we could ask for more enforcement from the officers. If there are officers actually, to the acting CAO, if there's officers who are designated to come out there, then maybe they need to come more frequently. We should make, send a letter or a phone call and ask them to come. If Mr. Hart is correct and he's telling us that there's actually geese and stuff, I mean, a swan, dead swan, that's not right, sir. That's just not right. So again, thank you very much for coming. I've had several complaints from people in that area as well before, and I asked our acting CAO today to check in on that, and he sent us all an email, and he explained to you what has been told to him. But I think you're correct. I think we can take another step here, and
please.
You know, you can't get in the lake unless you come to our property. So we could say, you're right. You're not. If you're going out hunting, you're not coming in on our property. So it might be something we could do, maybe. Thank you.
Elliott.
Thanks. Next, Mr. Hart.
Thank you, Mayor. In the email from the MNR, and I'll just read it real quickly. The activity of duck hunting can come in many forms and would include hunting from blinds, platforms, vessels, or the shoreline. Vessels are permitted platforms to be hunted from when migratory bird hunting, as long as the motor is not in operation and the forward motion has ceased. There is no distance setback requirement from a shoreline unless specifically stated in a bylaw for the discharge of a firearm. My question through you, Mr. Mayor, to the acting CAO, what do we have the right to regulate through bylaw to control hunting within the city limits?
Mr. Hans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to the council. There was a bylaw passed a number of years ago that allowed hunting on Sundays. There are other hunting regulations within the city, but specific to Gravelly Bay, once you leave the shoreline of Gravelly Bay, it's federal land, and we have no jurisdiction to pass any bylaws on federal land. So we would have no means to pass a bylaw beyond the shoreline itself. So it would have to be restricted to anything on land.
Thank you, Mr. Just a few other questions I have. Through Mayor to Ron. So that would preclude us from constructing a bylaw that would ban hunting on Sundays because it's not on our land?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to council. I'd have to get some advice on that from legal with our authority to actually structure a bylaw of that type. We'd have to get some more information. If it's council's direction, they want to see something done in terms of on land itself and a structural bylaw, we could certainly look into that on behalf of council.
Thirdly, there is no bylaw in place right now with distance setback off the shoreline in Gravelly Bay in particular.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. There is no distance setback. Once you're on the water, it's federally regulated through the Migratory Bird Act and the permits that the hunters get within the bay. Everything is regulated by that act and that legislation.
So basically, once they leave, you leave land.
That's correct.
You're under the jurisdiction of federal government. Okay. And then just one quick comment. with regards to prohibiting somebody from launching their boat to go hunting. I would be totally against that. You cannot ban somebody from a public dock to launch their boat legally to go and do a legal event. If hunting is a permitted event on the lake, to ban somebody from launching a boat in a public dock, I have an issue with that. You can't tell somebody that they can't put their boat in because they're going to go hunting. As much as you can't ban somebody from going fishing. You may not like the event, you may not like the noise that it's caused by, but you can't prevent them from going to do something that's legal in nature. I have a huge issue with even trying to introduce something like that. But I can understand, and I understand the problem because I can hear them where I live, especially on Sunday mornings at 6 o'clock. And I've got several calls, and I suspect that Councilor Maine has received them as well. At this time of year, you can't even see at 6 o'clock in the morning, so I don't even know how these guys are shooting at something that's out there that they can see moving. But I've heard and had reports and talked to MNR that they've come down and inspected everything and everything has passed, and it's even included in the email that we received that they've checked licenses, they've checked ownership, they've checked everything, and everything is up to snuff right now. There's nothing illegal that these hunters are doing other than it causes a disturbance. And you're right. Should they be hunting in an area so close to residences? No. But when it's out of our regulatory authority, I'm not sure that there's anything else that we can do, except I'd really like to take a look at the Sunday hunting, because we should at least give our citizens at least one day of reprieve from the noise. Then I heard that loud and clear from several people, that at least one day of sleeping in, because the 6 o'clock in the morning can be done every day, and it really is bothersome. So I'll reserve any more comments till later on, till I hear what the rest of people. But if Ron could get back to us with that, that would be great.
Yes, Mr. Hart.
The question to me is to listen to you people talk about the federal government's rules and regulations. I pay taxes federally, and I pay taxes provincially. And I'm saying to you, go after them. They're shooting in the town limit. All you got to do is make sure that they're aware of it. Never mind an officer comes and checks the license. They've got license. That isn't the key to it. Should they be entitled to fire a gun off within the city? And that lake shore is one of the best lake shores in Canada. I don't care if you're going along the lake shore, or it's BC, or it's down the East Coast. I've been to them all. And to see blinds out there and guns going off out there, that's not the way to sell Port Colborne. Go after the federal government and limit it. That's up to you to not sit back. Go after them.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. I think that certainly you've heard the direction that our staff will look into this further. Although I will comment that when you are in a boat and hunting in a boat, you cannot chase the birds and then shoot them. The boat has to be stopped. So that is illegal if you see that. The boat must be stationary before they're shooting out. But it's a whole bigger issue which so our city staff will look into.
Thank you.
Madam Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Mr. Hart. I appreciate your comments. When I lived up north in outside of Omimi, in a little place called Cowan's Bay, and it was on the shore of Pigeon River and Pigeon Lake, and September till into the winter was it was horrible, because the duck hunters came and the carnage of washed up birds that were never retrieved. It was pretty nasty. So I really do sympathize with what you're saying, and I'm glad that staff will look further into this. I would also urge some review of what we do have in our bylaw and bring that back to us to see what is in there. And I think Councillor Elliott's comments are bang on, as well as everybody else's. So in that regard, I think we can move something forward here. In terms of the MPCA, I'm going to ask for leave of council to put forward a motion tonight regarding the MPCA, but I need to ask for leave, and I guess I need a seconder for that.
Councilor Butters has asked for leave, seconded by Councilor Kenny. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Can you introduce your proposed
Thank you.
bylaw?
I would like to put forward this motion tonight. The subject is the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority investigation, and I'm going to move that whereas the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, MPCA, a provincial agency operating in the regions of Niagara and Haldimand County and the City of Hamilton, is funded largely by the region of Niagara. And whereas serious questions have been raised about the financial and human resource management of the NPCA, and whereas serious questions have been raised about the functioning of the NPCA in upholding its duty to fulfill the legislative mandate as set out for it in Section 20 of the Conservation Authorities Act, and I quote, to establish and undertake programs designed to balance the conservation, restoration, development, and management of natural resources. And whereas Niagara MPPs and citizens have called for a forensic audit of the MPCA's business practices, and whereas the people of Port Colborne and the region of Niagara and the province of Ontario deserve openness and accountability as to how their tax dollars are being spent and how effectively our natural environment is being protected, therefore be it resolved, Council requests a letter be sent to Premier Kathleen Wynne and Catherine McGarry, Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, the Auditor General of Ontario, with copies distributed to the MPCA, all Niagara MPPs, the Niagara region, local tier municipalities in Niagara, Haldimand County, and the City of Hamilton, urging the province to immediately initiate an appropriately thorough investigation, be it value for money, and a forensic and operational audit of the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority forthwith. And I need a seconder.
Councilor Kenny. All those in favor? Opposed? Oh, question. No, question, Mr. Bonner.
If you like.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councilor Butters, would you consider sending that to the board of directors of the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority? I didn't hear you mention that, or did you?
It says to the MPCA, but would you like it to say to the board?
To the board of directors, I think, would be the governing body there, so.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Now, can I call the question? Any other comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
Thank you.
It's my understanding, Mr. Hart, that the board will be considering the issue of an audit, forensic audit, at their January meeting. And it's my further understanding that, say, the Township of Wainfleet has requested it, City of St. Catherine has requested it. I understand there'll be 2 more councils this week requesting it as well. And I feel that you probably have requests from all councils in the Niagara region.
Sounds good.
And I want to be sure that you're covered by this motion, that you would like a forensic audit of the operations of the MPCA. As you're aware, the finances are audited every year by a firm, but I just want to make sure we have satisfied your concerns as to what a forensic audit is required. Okay, I would assume that concludes this issue. And thank you very much for bringing that forward.
Thank you.
Certainly, I'll tell you where I'm coming from. I'd support the request for an audit myself. And I think you'll find most councils doing so. Okay. If I can provide a brief mayor's report. I think to start with the Santa Claus Parade, I would like to thank all of the business schools and community groups that made the 2016 Santa Claus Parade one of the longest and best yet. The creativity that went into the lighted decorations was amazing and enjoyed by the thousands of residents and visitors along the road. Our parade has a distinction of being one of the best in the Niagara region. Christmas holidays here at City Hall. Just a reminder to the public that City Hall and Roseland Center will close at 4:30 p.m. on December 23rd and will reopen on Tuesday, January 3rd at 8:30 a.m. Our museum will close for the winter on December 20th, reopening on May 1st. The library and Valet Health and Wellness Center will have special holiday hours between Christmas and New Year's, so check your website for these details. New Year's Eve, we hope that you all come out for our family New Year's Eve celebration at the Valet Health and Wellness Center. Most activities start at 2 p.m. with an open swim starting at 1 p.m. Check out our website again for details of all activities. We will bring in the new year at 6 p.m. with our annual fireworks display. Mayor's New Year's Levee. We will bring in the new year for the residents of Port Colborne at our annual Mayor's New Year's Levee on Sunday, January 1st from 1 to 3 p.m. here in this council chamber. This is your opportunity to talk one-on-one in a casual setting with the mayor and members of council about issues that are important to you. Light refreshments will be served. 2017 budget meetings will begin on Wednesday, February 1st at 5:30 p.m. here in the council chambers. The public is encouraged to attend. That is the extent of my report. Move on to regional councilor, has been noted, is not here this evening. And we'll move on to item number 13. Are there any councilors' items that they wish to bring forward at this time? There being none, are there any staff? Yes, Mr. Doucette.
I was just wondering if maybe I was going to ask Mr. Barrick about it, but I noticed all the lines have been drawn on Highway 3 for the lights that we're supposed to get. We were supposed to have that at the end of November. It's not done. We're now heading towards Christmas. I don't expect it to be done. Is there a time schedule we can get or something? And I know Mr. Hansen's been working really hard with them to try to get it done. I went by the other day and there's all these painted lines, and I understand why, but I mean, we should have saw painted lines in September, never mind December, and they just showed up. What are we doing? Is there some way of getting a hold of them, some way of finding out if there's a time schedule so we can start telling people? I got complaints again the other day about exactly that. I was asked to meet someone, I met them, and that was the main concern. She has 3 little kids. She's got to cross them over, and she's having trouble getting them across. Okay, and that was supposed to solve that issue.
Okay, I will ask Mr. Hansen once again, Mr. Doucette. Mr. Hansen, can you shed any light on when these lines will actually
I will try, Mr. Mayor. We've been asking on a regular basis through our engineering manager for updates on it. We've been working cooperatively with the regional staff to try to get this done. The locates for the work were done, the lines you see on the road, and I personally saw a truck and an auger taking boreholes in that location last week. So there is activity on the job. Unfortunately, I would like to give you, as I tried to do in October, try to give you a firm date on activity for the construction itself. We don't have that as yet. They are working on it. I don't have a firm date on when the work will be complete. So we'll continue on with the regional staff and continue to pressure them to get this work done as quickly as possible. We've enforced with regional staff that this is a priority for the city of Port Colborne, and we want to see it get built as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hansen. I'll pass the word on to the constituents.
I will also speak with the head of the Public Works Department at the region to see if we can get some quick action. Thank you, Mr. Doucette. Mr. Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Doucette made the light bulb go on in my head when he was talking about repairs and installations. Through you to Ron, we'll pick on you again tonight. There's a cone that's been placed and a sign that's been placed on Kalali Street at the railway tracks at the bridge. The sign says bump ahead. The cone is right where the great big bump is when you go over. repair is going to take place, I'm hoping, sooner rather than later? Any idea?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, again, we did contact the region with the concerns that were brought forward and our own concerns in using the crossing on a regular basis. We contacted the region. Unfortunately, the work required is a replacement of ties and railway infrastructure. So it's not just the region who have to do some roadworks, but it's in cooperation with the railway company as well. They've scheduled that work for May or June of next year. It won't be done this winter. So in lieu of that, they've put up bump ahead signs on each side to warn traffic to slow down, and there is a bit of a bump there, no question.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Mr. Maine.
Just a couple of quick comments. We have had our first, I call, major snowfall, and it seems like people in my area have fallen into the same rut of vacating their driveways and parking on the street so that they can get out in the morning. And they continue to do this, and I feel sorry for the guys that are driving the plows, because they have to go around these parked cars, and every time they go around the parked car, they dip some more snow, and then they got to come back later on in the day after the fellow who parks his car in the driveway keeps the end of his driveway clean. They come along to clean up the mess from the parked car, and guess what? I've got snow back in my driveway again. And whose fault is it? It's not the guy that's driving the plow. You expect to shovel out your driveway at least once to get your car in and out. But when somebody leaves their car on the road and they leave that mess and the guy's got to come back a second time, the snow goes somewhere, goes in the neighbor's yard. And I think I talked to bylaw today, and we went through that process again of the warning and the ticket and the tow. I think on a taxpayer's point of view is I would rather just pay that plow once to come down the street, not 2 times and not 3 times. And I'm sure the guy driving, must get frustrating to drive a snow plow down the street with parked cars. That's my first rant. I think we really have to look at it. We started the snow committee last year, and I think we've got to make some tough decisions. Are you going to make some people angry, or are you going to make some people happy? And I think the majority is going to be happy. The other thing is Niagara Housing. I was looking through some of their stuff today, and I don't see anybody on the board from Port Colborne. There isn't anybody. And they talk about housing, they talk about, is there somebody from? So, and I just wondered why. I mean, I know it's at the regional level, but we are part of the region. I think we should have someone who sits on regional housing. That's the second rant. And I got one more. Councillor Elliott and I were approached by a taxpayer, a member of the Conservation Club, with a real, and it was brought up before because I talked to Mr. Hansen, and this person never really got back. He started, and it kind of sat there, and I got the file from Ron, and I've lived in this town my whole life, and I didn't know there was a view of the bay from behind the hospital until I climbed up on that berm. And I'll tell you, we're missing out on a really nice look and a nice piece of property. And all it really needs is some remediation, maybe the berm leveled all out, whether it would require railings or not, that would have to fall under where our liabilities are. But I think we're really missing out on a nice piece of property for people who don't have boats, and people who just like to go out and sit and look at the water, and people who are going to pay for it anyway. And I would like permission of council to still pursue this, along with Councillor Elliott and a few concerned citizens, because there are some really good ideas of how we can pay for it and not really affect the taxpayer. And I think if we can go that route, I think it's a win-win situation for everybody here. And that's my third rant. So I'm open to discussion any one of those 3. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Are there any members of staff that wish to comment on this last comment on the berm walkway? Yes, Mr. Aquilina.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Maine. I was going to talk about the first rant, but I'm more than happy to talk about the last rant. One of the, depending on where the lands you're talking about, we could have a further conversation between where exactly you're referring to. I've been in discussions, and it was a file that former CAO Heil had with the NHS as well as the region, because there's some land swapping of lands that need to occur. So if that's the area, and we can have a further discussion as to what area you're actually talking about. So I'll look into that. It's a file that I am taking over to try to get some headway on. The first rant about the issuing the warning, ticket, and tow, what we would need a direction from council to bypass the warning. Just go right to the ticket. So that would be a direction of council if all of council wants to go down that road to forego the warnings, because that takes time. Obviously, people are still parking on the road, so I would need a direction from council to bypass the warnings.
Could we have a staff report on that first issue? On which we could make a decision on the issue. Mr. Maine.
I would propose, and thank you very much, Dan, that we do have a winter operations committee, and I think it's probably good to meet, discuss this, and I have no problem with towing. In fact, I'd buy a tow truck if I could get away with it. But having said that, we just seem to be spinning our tires, and it seems to be the same thing every year, all the time, and I don't know, when I see a person who has a driveway that can hold 6 cars, and 4 of those cars are on the street when there's a snowplow coming or a snowstorm coming, that's just out and out. You don't care for your neighbor, so that's my second rant. Thanks.
And on your third rant, do you wish?
Well, it's Niagara Housing, and I don't know who wants to talk about Niagara Housing.
Well, I thought that was the berm.
No, the berm, yeah, okay, that's the third one. Yeah, and that's right too with the berm. If we have to do some discussions with the region and NHS, anything that improves that property, if they want to be partners with us, put some cash in, I think that may be a good way to get going. Like if somebody's going to come and do it, a service club or concerned citizens or donations made, whatever, it's a win-win situation for everybody. It's just that 15 or 20-foot swath of where the berm is. It's not going to affect the parking lot where people park, the helicopter pad where the helicopter lands. It's just that mess that sits out between the parking lot and the bay.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. You would like a preliminary report at least on that rant?
Absolutely.
Mr. Aquilino, is that possible to give us a preliminary report on a suggestion of a walkway on top of that berm?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I could look into that, and like I said, it's the resurrection of the file to see who the component parties are and where it actually sits. But I can report back to council.
Thank you. And with respect to the Housing Authority, I'll make you inquiries as to why or why not that there's not a representative from Port Colborne on that board. Okay, Councillor Demery, you were next, and Councillor Kenny.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, thanks to Councillor Maine and the thoughts about snow. I remembered something that happened this morning. I got 3 emails in the space of 15 minutes from a local business owner with issues around snow and snow clearing this morning. And I just wanted to make it clear as to who's responsible for what. This was around the Clarence Street Bridge and the sidewalks leading up to it. It was my understanding that the Seaway was responsible to clear that, but I'm not absolutely certain, and I'd like to actually take this to Mr. Hansen to clarify who's responsible for it, how much time do they have to clear it after a snowfall, and to what degree should it be cleared?
Mr. Hansen, can you comment?
I can take this.
Mr. Aquilino.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Demery, the property in between the bridge, that is the St. Lawrence Seaway Authority. All property owners in the city require to clear the snow after a snowfall event, you have 24 hours to do so. If it's not done, then we will do it, and then we will charge the property owner. And if they don't pay, it goes on to their taxes.
Does that work the same for the Seaway? If they don't do it, should we be charging them? Because this is an ongoing issue, and this business owner was absolutely correct in the fact that it takes a long time for them to get that cleared up sometimes.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Desmarais, we have a good working relationship with the Seaway, and normally when we ask them to do things, they do it. However, if you have something that I'm not aware of, we can bring that forward to them and put them on notice. If they don't do it, then we will actually do it ourselves, and we will try to get the money back. It may be difficult because they're an arm of the federal government, but I think it's a conversation that we can have with the Seaway if we're not satisfied with their work that they're not doing.
Okay, that would be
helpful. I'll pass that information along.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since none of us pulled this, and I thought it's something that we should probably let citizens know, that the city of Port Colborne was a benefactor of the estate of a Doreen Mary Bren Butler, who from her estate, the amount of $49,500 was given to the city of Port Colborne to share equally as a bequest between the Port Colborne Historical Marine Museum and the Port Colborne Library. And I thought that was a very good news story that needed to get out there, and I think that's very, very generous, and certainly to two organizations or departments within our city that can use those monies. So that was very nice. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And eventually, we'd like to know how they spent those monies. Is there anyone else has a comment? Councillor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Main's comment about snow removal. I went out this morning around 11 o'clock and noticed that maybe we should remind people of the legalities of putting their snow from their driveway into the street. If I remember right, Mr. Hansen can definitely clarify this, it is against the law to place your snow on the street. But I'd like Mr. Hansen to maybe give a comment to that as well, and just so that it is very clear, no snow.
Mr. Hansen?
Through Mr. Mayor, the bylaws department is very active after a storm such as we had last night and this morning, and what they do is actually follow up on concerns where snow has been taken from private property onto the road allowances, and warnings are issued at that time. It's against the bylaw to place snow from your property out onto the roadways. So we will follow up through Dan's department, through bylaws for any of those concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Doucette.
I had to run through.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Are there any questions or follow-up from staff? Chief Cartwright?
Through your worship, if I could just take a second to give a fire safety message for Christmas. This is the last meeting of council before Christmas. Remind everybody to please use care when using candles and cooking as well, especially if you've had a few drinks. Also make sure your smoke and carbon monoxide alarms are working, and please use care with regards to alcohol and driving. Thank you.
Good comments. Thank you, Chief. All right, if we're finished this portion, then we'll move on to those consideration of items requiring separate discussion. Item number 1, Councillor Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Engineering Operations, Engineering Division Report number 2016-212, Subject Information Report, Site Servicing of Employment Lands Project Update. And this item requires separate consideration, and I have a question on it as well, but.
Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Kenny? Discussion?
We have a presentation.
Oh.
This is a presentation.
Okay. Mr. Lund, Senior Project Manager?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, staff, for inviting us today. I'm here
project manager from AECOM engineering firm. We were retained to perform a site servicing study and environmental assessment for the east side employment lands north of concession 2 and south of concession 3 on the east side of the canal. And we made a I'm the project manager. I'm also accompanied with two of my colleagues. They're sitting at the back there, are Carl Grunice, who's our senior environmental planner, and Jocelyn St. Dennis, who is she's a project manager and engineer. So I'm just trying to see how I move through the buttons here. Okay, this is the little red switch here. That gets me. That one there. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay. And just as far as the presentation, I've just separated it into 4 components. Work we've done to date, our recommended servicing strategy, our costs that would be associated with it, and the next steps to move this forward. So in 2015 was the last time we made a presentation to council. In January 2015, we made a presentation to council, and at that time, we found that the site servicing to this area, and you can sort of see it. I'm just trying to think how the best way to kind of show the geographical area with the mouse maybe here. But that on the canals, you kind of see, if you can see those red lines on the screens, just to the east of the canals, that's the site servicing area. And at that time to get, I mean, this is a very significant initiative for Port Colborne. And at that time in January 2015, we were providing water and sewer servicing for that site along Highway 40 and then northwards on Ramey Road. At that time, it was suggested in March, we did a presentation to the public. And then following that, council and staff suggested that we review the possibility of providing the water and sewer servicing through the city-zoned railway. So that we were in the fall of 2015, we were asked to commence this work. And that involves some environmental investigations, some geotechnical work, and some design work. The outcome of that was that the cost of this project would drop by about $500,000. So it was time well spent. So in 2016, the process was we had a draft environmental assessment report, and before we publicly, when we do go through the approved process, we circulate it to all the agencies to get and through the spring and the fall of 2016, review agencies were contacted, and the result was it took some time to get those comments back, but there was really no showstoppers. It was really, they were very minor comments, comply with our standards. And so, so I think that all the green lights look good from an approval point of view for advancing the development of the site. And the other thing that's going on at the same time is there's also some design that's ongoing at the same time. So that was also developed in 2016. Implementation. So the result of this is this parcel of land now has gone through the initial stages and we've communicated that information to all the agencies, and we are now ready for, we just don't have a blank piece of property. Now we have a property that people are aware of that is becoming ready for development. This is part of the process. And there's 2 bits that we have to coordinate technically. There's also across the Welland Canal at the second concession, there's a pipe crossings that are planned there. There's a water crossing It's planned by Niagara Region for 2018, to be designed in 2018 and tentatively planned to go to construction in 2020. And there would also be sewage servicing, because if this were going to get water up to this little parcel of land, we're going to have to drain our wastewater back, and it's going to have to get through a pipe through the canal to the Seaway wastewater treatment plant. So there's 2 pipes. So now, because of this study, we're now, I think it's good that we're being proactive. We're kind of getting the site ready, and we know of the upcoming construction works or planned infrastructure that we now have this parcel that is now tied into those planned improvements to infrastructure for water and sewage. So the sewage infrastructure would be city initiated. The water infrastructure, the water main across the Welland Canal is a regional Niagara Region project. And the servicing, it's pretty simple. Like all, it's 3 areas, main areas and 1 minor area. We're going to have improvements to the roads along Ramey Road, north-south, east-west on the 3rd concession, and there'll be road improvements there. There's also water and wastewater that we talked about, has to be serviced. And also there's going to be some improvements to the drainage and municipal drains. So this picture here is to show you that we have a fairly wide, we have along Ramey Road, north-south. We have a 32-meter wide right-of-way. And you can see that's a lot of ditching that's required. So it's not all for the roadway. But in the roadway, it's going to be 2 lanes of traffic and road ditches. And then the 3rd ditch is to the left-hand side of the drawing. That's the municipal drain. So it takes a bit of space up. And running east-west along the 3rd concession, we'll have, it's a similar cross-section. The difference here between, I'm just going to see if I can go back. I can't go back. I guess in the north-south, for the north-south road along Ramey Road, there's going to be a turning lane, a double left-hand turning lane that's part of that. For the east-west road, it's going to be 2 lanes of traffic, no double left-hand turning lane. So it's a little narrower right-of-way. It's only 20 meters as opposed to 32 meters. And the reason we mention these right-of-ways is because there's a little bit of easements that have to be secured along the north-south road as part of initiating this project. You'll see that later on. And I guess one thing I should have mentioned too is there'll be an intersection at Highway 40 and the 3rd concession road. And that's been, we've vetted that with the Ministry of Transportation. And so that is also been approved in concept with MTO. So we're kind of getting ready to do our final report. That's a fairly descriptive slide, but this has to do with the drainage. And you can sort of see that little triangle, the blue triangle. You can see the blue line north-south, that's Ramey Road. And the east-west is 3rd concession, and that hatched area is the east side employment lands. And that's a description of some improvements to the municipal drains. It's kind of detailed, probably a little bit dry, I think, for this. It's a little bit technical, but it will allow better traffic flow. And also, there was some detailed investigation because there are some cost savings. By realigning it, there's some culverts that we can avoid building and save money. So it's just a cost-effective and makes the roads and makes the drainage work. As part of the sewage servicing, about midway along Ramey Road, midway between where the road is on the north side of the railway, about halfway from the railway up to the 3rd concession. So there'll be a pumping station because it can't all drain by gravity to the wastewater treatment plant. It has to be drained kind of in a central area, and then it has to be pushed by force through pumps to the Seaway wastewater treatment plant. So these are the technical chunks. And this one, again, we've got, if you can see, there's kind of 3 white boxes on top of that map. That is our kind of the box on the top, which has a 1 on it. That's where the pumping station's supposed to be. Box number 2 is where we have to get under the railway, because we'll be passing the sewer and force main have to go, and the water main have to go under the railway, and we'll pass, and so that requires a little bit more cost, because you can't open excavate, so you have to do trenchless construction, so you don't disrupt the rail. And then there's a third area where we are going to be, that third box is where we're going to do a little bit more trenchless construction. There's a creek there. So those are the pieces that we have to put together to make this, to make it work. And eventually, and that C at the bottom that you can see below the C, that's where we're going to be connecting the water and wastewater. Well, that C is where the water will connect to the Niagara Region's water main. And it's also our sewer force main, which will be city-owned and operated by Niagara Region. That's the same, it follows the same route. And this is a similar map. I won't describe it that much. The blue lines show water mains. The last one's red was all sewage. In this case, you don't have any pumping. You just have big pipes. Not huge pipes. They're 450 millimeters, which is 1.5 feet in diameter. But that's a fair-sized pipe because of the industry that you're providing fire protection for. So you need a fair amount of flow. And this 3 little parts here, that really just shows that we require property easements, and that's for that wide right-of-way, north-south. So there are some, there are property owners that would require easements to be obtained for pipes and ditches. And cost. We'll take a look at that. So that is our estimated cost for servicing is $7.4 million. And so that's a construction cost. And I guess tentatively planned for 2020. So next steps. Where we are at the process, we're just winding this study up and making our final presentation to council here. And our plan is to file the final report for a 30-day environmental assessment review in January of this year. We wanted to have this council meeting first. And and really the next, as far as, and we're also now in a position where the city, once this is filed, the city's now, instead of having just a parcel of land, now you have a parcel of land that has had an environmental assessment done to it. All its shelf, all of its design is ready and on the shelf to go. So it's now, hopefully those are the things that will attract industry to Port Colborne and make it more vibrant. So I'm looking forward to this being a success, a long-term success. And this is first part of the planning process for something that I hope just keeps gaining momentum. So, yes, so I think through the process, there's been some time has passed since the process has begun, but I think what we've achieved is we have shown some cost savings through some engineering reviews, and we have also been able to contact all the regulators, and they are all on board with the process, and we're able to file this report that will now we have a piece of property where you've done a thorough environmental investigation, and you have a design that's complete, so we know how to service it. So I expect bright things for your future. And I'd like to thank Mr. Mayor and council and staff for the opportunity to make this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Lund. We do have some questions. Councillor Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On my thing, which is like page 42, I guess it's page 9 for you.
Okay.
It talked about the Indian Creek alignment and work on the pond drain as well.
Mhm.
And then it says at the bottom, works will fall under the Drainage Act and will be captured in a future municipal drain report update. So I'm wondering, like, how many landowners does this affect? Who pays for this? And how does that work?
That was the land ownership, and I may be looking back a little bit here. I do know from the, I think there was one landowner that I thought the relocation of the municipal drain that we had to get an easement, as I recall. I'm trying to recall who that landowner was for the municipal drain realignment. So that, you're right in that not only do we look at the pipes going along Ramey Road, but also we need to be looking at easements for that municipal drain alignment. And I don't know if you can see, it's kind of hard to see on this, but you see the little blue pop-up window that's sort of there, the little small square in the top left-hand corner of the photograph on the slide that I'm showing. That's kind of showing where the drains are the dark blue on the photos, if you can see that, that's what's existing. And the light blue is the rerouting.
Okay. Right here.
And it's, we're running east to west. And that's a way to sort of, the reason why we're doing that is we're trying to avoid making one of the culverts larger and having to replace it. So, yes, that is probably, as far as the property easements, that's something that will be noted in the final EA, but, and make sure that we show that clearly.
Okay.
Before it's filed.
And no cost to the landowner for that property, like no cost to them when this happens, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And my other question is from on mine, it's page 47, I think.
Okay.
So for you, it'd be like the ESEL servicing costs. You have the star cost for box culverts does not include the Indian Creek drain realignment. So how does that work where there will be a cost?
Yes.
So how does that work? Because it's not included in there, and how much is that and who pays?
Yes. As far as the Indian Creek, that's all part of the stormwater servicing strategy, because we got roads and stormwater along here, so it would be part of, I think that was for the benefits of our cost estimate, probably because we didn't have that cost with us, so we can provide an estimate for that and roll it into our cost estimate for the final filing, just to make sure that that's not a kind of a loophole. So, and I think, we will take one final look at that $7.4 million and make sure that it's the right number before we file it as part of the final report in January of this year. Okay?
Further questions? Councilor Ryder and Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to pick up on what Councilor Butters said, and I didn't hear directly what I wanted to hear, is that the people that drain into the watershed of the Indian Creek and the Han drain will not pay, this is what I want to hear, will not pay any money for the improvements that are done in this area.
That is our plan, yes.
That is your plan? Okay.
Yes. And will they pay? I do not foresee that they will pay anything.
Okay. No, they should not be, because this is all as a result of this employment lands.
Yes.
It isn't, something, so if it shows up someplace where they pay, Councilor Butters and I will want you to be standing there answering that question.
Okay.
At some point, okay?
Yes.
Just to give you a heads up.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I understand, yes.
Are you finished, Mr. Biden? Mr. Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, the presenter. Just while we're talking about costs, just two items real quick. The railway crossing control, I would assume, is for the crossing at Third Concession?
The railway crossing is, the railway crossing is where Raby Road, it abuts and comes across, it hits the north end of the railway, and it stops there right now. That's where we're going to be putting pipes underneath the railway.
So we're going to connect?
Yes.
Ramey is going to be straight through, north and south now?
Yep. From water and the sewage point of view, yes, that's the plan.
Not the street. But not the roadway?
But not the roadway.
So we need a railway crossing control for the pipes?
We just need, the pipes just have to get through there. And the way to do it is, I guess we're showing the difference is there's a slightly different cost when you're going underneath the railway versus when you're just in open land. It's just a slightly higher cost of construction because you can't disrupt. So
Okay, because the only reason I ask is it says railway crossing control. I'm thinking like control arms and signals.
Nah, sorry,
Okay.
that's a misleading word then.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the other cost is the Highway 140 cost at $294,000. What does that entail?
Well, there is some controls that our transportation group. I'm trying to think.
Lanes?
I will probably have to give you the details following that from our transportation group because I think
That's okay. I think Ron might have the answer.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I believe the improvements are for truck turning lanes at the intersection of 140 due to the expected increase in traffic into the employment lands. MTO has looked at the projected traffic volumes and indicated truck turning lanes in both directions.
Okay, perfect. That's all.
Thanks, Ron.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Any other questions from any members of council? There being none, thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Lund.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We look forward to seeing this work actually going on the ground.
I would love to see this. I think it's City of Port Colborne's. It's your turn.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
The question?
With regards to the presentation and that, but kind of in relation to it. Just
Okay,
real
Mr.
quickly.
Elliott.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, through you to Ron, have we given any consideration to connecting Ramey while we're doing this work? We're in the area to make it a complete north-south?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Elliott, we did look at that preliminarily in the design. We took a look at it, whether we wanted to create another level crossing there. It was a consideration, but wasn't followed through in the design we have there now. There wasn't a great advantage to it in extending it all the way down due to some of the existing developments south of the tracks. The way it was, there was no advantage, economic advantage in doing that. In trying to develop the land south of the tracks, there was no benefit at that point in time. It's something that certainly could be considered in the future.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have had the recommendation moved and seconded. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Lund.
Thank you.
Item number 2. Mr. Rogers, would you come forward, please? Mr. Aquilina?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it's my opportunity to take advantage of this opportunity, I should say, to introduce Todd Rogers as the city's new chief building official. Everyone knows that Mr. Lyle Merritt is retiring at the end of the year. So the appointment that we're seeking tonight is council to pass the bylaw appointing Todd Rogers as the CBO for the city effective January 1st, 2017. We'd just like to inform council of Todd's background. He comes with about 20 years of experience in the building industry. 8 of those years by way of City of St. Catharines as the manager of inspections. So I'm very grateful that Todd is going to be on board with us. So I have asked Todd to come here this evening just to show his face to TVCOGECO land and all of council to see Mr. Rogers in person. Thank you.
I'd look for a nominator on the recommendation and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Kenny, second by Councilor Demeray. You have a question, Mr. Doucette? Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, and welcome aboard, Mr. Rogers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry you had to wait so long to get to this esteemed moment.
You're waiting for the building inspector?
Okay. I guess the next one is item number 8.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Community and Corporate Services, Community Service Division, report number 2016-211, subject 2021 Canadian Summer Games.
Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Councilor Demeray. Mr. Matt Hill, come forward and have a presentation to make.
There we go. Firstly, thank you to Mr. Mayor and Council for having us this evening. I'd like to provide a quick update to the Canada Games bid that the Niagara region is undertaking. I'll try to be brief with this. I'll focus on just a couple things for you this evening. For those of you who may not be aware, I'll give you a quick high-level overview of what the Canada Games are, what Niagara's bid is, our next steps in this bid process, and our ask of the City of Port Colborne this evening. For those of you who may not be aware, the Canada Summer Games are the largest multi-sport summer event that our country currently has. This is a very unique property to Canada. There are very few other countries within the world that have this type of event. There's 5,000 athletes as a part of this, 17 sports, approximately 6,000 local volunteers. We anticipate about 25,000 visitors to Niagara as a part of this. As a part of the games, there are confirmed funding from higher tier governments as a part of this, approximately $10 million each from the province and the federal government. To be clear, 2021 will be hosted in Ontario. This is done on a rotating basis throughout the country. So 2021 is within the province of Ontario. There are 4 competing bids, of which Niagara is one. The consortium of Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, Guelph as one other bidder. The City of Greater Sudbury and the City of Ottawa are our competitors for this. And like I said, will be within the province of Ontario, generating anywhere from $165 to $200 million of economic impact within the local economy wherever it's ultimately hosted. As I mentioned, we are in the bidding process. We've been in the bidding process for the better part of a year now. Our first submission to Canada Games Council went in at the end of June. I'd like to commend City of Port Colborne staff for their assistance with that process. That first submission was essentially a technical document and essentially our sport plan. It detailed our suggested venues for the competition should we ultimately be successful. I'll touch on this shortly, but we've identified 3 venues for the City of Port Colborne to participate in the games. Going through that process, there were 2 very high-level priorities for us. 1A and 1B, if you will. Firstly, the athlete experience. We're going to have 5,000 high-level elite athletes here in our community, assuming we're successful in hosting. So we need to make sure that we're putting forward our best foot from a venue standpoint so that they can achieve their best success. But secondly to that, this is a regional bid, so making sure that we incorporated every single corner of our region and every municipality in that. And I'm proud to stand before you today and say that if our bid is successful, all 12 municipalities will receive some type of event, some type of sporting event or cultural event as a part of the games. For you this evening, we do have an MOU that's been sent to you as a part of our ask for you. We are asking you this evening for 2 things. Firstly, we are asking the City of Port Colborne to waive the fees associated with your facility rentals. Those total approximately $7,500. Those are for 2 practice competition venues, firstly being the Valley Center. I would like to also commend you actually on receiving your award for that. It's very, very encouraging. For indoor volleyball, we'd also identified Nickel Beach as a venue for beach volleyball, of which there would be a capital improvement of equipment left with the City of Port Colborne following the event as a legacy for your municipality. But beyond that, we've also identified the City of Port Colborne as a host for one discipline of our cycling competition. We've been working with Steve Bauer, who I'm sure many of you are aware of the name, former Olympic athlete, high-level cyclist here. Steve's been essentially our architect of our cycling plan, if you will. There's 4 disciplines as a part of that. As you may also be aware, Steve also runs his Steve Bauer Classic in Pelham on an annual basis. What we are hoping to do as an ongoing legacy from hosting these games is create a cycling festival here within Niagara, of which now all 4 disciplines in 4 different municipalities from these games would ultimately hopefully be continued and host those events on an annual basis going forward. So working with the city staff, we've identified a route within the municipality that would actually host one component of our road race cycling event. It's essentially a 10-kilometer loop that we've identified with Steve and staff about how we can work this forward. We'd like to do that on an ongoing basis. The exact route in terms of the roads, while we do have a plan tentatively identified, can be modified upon success. However, what should be noted is that we've identified H.H. Knowles as the start-finish area. During the times of the games, this would be a celebration site. This is a festival site. This is a party opportunity for the one day that this cycling event is actually happening here within the community. So it would be animated and done as a way of celebrating the games here within Port Colborne. Something I did not touch on would be the artistic festivals, the cultural festivals that come as a part of this. As much as this is a sporting event, this is a celebration of Canada, of Ontario, and ultimately us as Niagara and each of the municipalities. We've identified several different programs. On our current bid group right now, we have 5 different operational committees, one of which is a community engagement committee, which has been working with representatives from across Niagara about how we can do that. One of the opportunities that we believe we have that's very unique to our bid is that because we are a region with a regional government, we very much align very closely with our competitors. We have 12 municipalities in a region. We're ultimately going to have 13 provinces or territories to come. So we'll be developing a cultural program to identify and pair our provinces and territories with each of our municipalities. So with that said today, we do have an ask before you. As I mentioned, it is for the waiving of the fees, and it is to help support some of the capital equipment required to host those cycling events, not just for the games, but on an ongoing basis annually. So with that said, I'm happy to take any questions that council might have this evening.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, Mr. May.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter. I'm reading 2 pieces of paper here. One says the capital will be the outdoor volleyball net set for $1,500. But underneath it says portion of, now this is just me, I'm kind of quirky this way, portion of traveling cycling trailer cost $21,250. Now, is that for a trailer or is that for the infrastructure on the trail?
It's through you, Mr. Mayor, it's for both. We've identified the true cost of that cycling equipment and trailer is approximately $170,000. This is equipment that's required to host the games. To fund that, the host society, assuming we're successful in the bid, would become the host society, would fund 50% of that. We are asking each of the municipalities that are hosting a component of the cycling to fund the other 50%. So in this case, the cost of the equipment and capital requirement to host the event in Port Colborne is the $42,000, which is where we're asking the city to fund half and the host society would fund the other half. On top of that, there's $1,500 for beach volleyball equipment. Again, the ask is that the city fund $750 for 50% of that, and the host society would fund the other 50%.
Through Mr. Mayor to the presenter. So at the end of the day, who ends up with the trailer? I mean, do we get the tires? Do we get the, what, you know, or does it go to an organization that's used in our area all the time?
That's through you, Mr. Mayor. Ultimately, all of the equipment and capital investment will be left with the host society as a legacy piece and ultimately used in the community, available for access through ultimately what the host society becomes being. It is a legacy component of the games of which the host society, once established and within impact from the legacy committee, of which I know I'm getting very complicated when I say this to you, but the host society will ultimately depend on what that direction looks like. It will be left in the local community, though, available for these ongoing assets. So where I mentioned we'd like to continue hosting these cycling events on an ongoing basis, it would be available for those. It would also be available if there are other event providers that would like to come in within the community for access.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Madam Butters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just to make it simple, because I like things real simple. So is the host society the region of Niagara, the municipality, the region of Niagara?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the Niagara region is the current bidder.
Right.
If the region is successful, the event must be hosted by an incorporated body of which the region would help support financially. So it would become an independent body of the region incorporated, which ceases to exist once the games have concluded.
But if that body ceases to exist, then where does
So
like,
there's
the stuff go?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's a legacy plan that's developed with input from the board of directors during the existence of the host society. It'd be negative of me. It would not be right of me to comment exactly on that today. The legacy plan is formed once the host society has existed. However, all equipment and legacy is left behind. So the city of Sherbrooke, for example, which just hosted the 2013 Summer Games, left behind about $1 million worth of equipment within the local community. This would be a portion of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Yes, Mr. Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to the presenter. When is the winning bid going to be announced?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Council. You're picking up on the one thing that I realized as I went through my presentation I forgot to touch on for you. So we will be putting in our final submission at the end of January 31st. It goes to Canada Games Council. Following that, we host a site visit with Canada Games Council's bid evaluation committee on March 1st. From there, we'll be notified in early April upon success. So we'll know within the next 4 months or so.
And just one quick follow-up question. I don't know whether or not you can answer it. Obviously, with the identification of Nickel Beach as beach volleyball, other than buying the net, which really seems to be at minimal cost, is there any capital upgrades to the beach that that are required, or basically as it is good enough for the event?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as it currently stands, it is competition ready. Nickel Beach has hosted similar competitions in the past at a provincial level, so the competition venue to serve as a training site is adequate as it currently stands.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. Any other questions from any councilman? Councilor Butters?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So where did that athlete stay for the two weeks that they're in the Niagara, if the Niagara region is successful?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Council, all the athletes will be staying at Brock University as a part of our athletes village. We are required to have that as a part of the games. Brock is actually the only property capable of hosting these number of athletes on an ongoing basis. But upon success, when we win, we'll be working with each of the different private operators to establish programs for friends and family of them, but also our officials, medical personnel will also be staying at both Niagara College campuses as well. So we'll be working with different providers throughout the region.
Okay. We have, I'm not sure if we moved the recommendation we did. It's been moved and seconded. Are you ready for the vote? All those in favor? All those opposed? That was unanimous, as I see it. Thank you very much. We very much appreciate you being here this evening. And it would appear to me that item 14, 15, 13. That was Angie. Angie, could you move the recommendation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Memorandum from Carrie McIntosh, Executive Assistant to the Chief Administrative Officer, on behalf of the East Village Neighborhood Improvement Task Force, Official Plan Amendment, East Waterfront Secondary Plan.
Is there a seconder for the recommendation? Councillor Main. Discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've lifted this mainly because I wanted to get it out there for everyone to hear, everyone who's watching through COGECO Land. The people of the East Village are waiting to see the results of this. They were definitely not in favor of having the one piece of property, zoning on one piece of property changed to industrial. They wanted it to be left open space and parkland. And the East Village Task Force met and it was brought forward as a motion there, and the task force supported that that zoning be left in place and not changed. So I wanted to bring it forward and make sure that more attention was brought to it, and that it be included in the all the former proceeding, all the proceedings on the plan as required through the Planning Act.
Any other comments or questions? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the recommendation? It's been carried, Councillor Elliott.
Okay.
Are there any notices of motion this evening? You're good. Any notices of motion? Okay. There being no further discussion, I'd call for a motion for adjournment. Moved by Councillor Dance, seconded by Councillor Kenny. All those in favor? Carried. Moving on to the regular meeting of council, 35-16, for Monday, December 12th, following the committee of the whole. Call this meeting to order. Are there any addendum items, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. None this evening.
Entertain a motion to confirm the agenda. Moved by Councillor Bodner, seconded by Councillor Kenny. All those in favor? Carried. And are there any disclosures of interest this evening? There being none, the record shall indicate. We entertain a motion to adopt minutes of special meeting of council 32-16 held on November 14th, 2016, and B, regular meeting of council 34-16 held on November 28th, 2016. I entertain a motion to adopt those minutes. Moved by Councillor Main, seconded by Councillor Butters. All those in favor? Carried. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. Are there any items which you wish to be discussed separately? There being none, I'd ask for a motion to approve all those items not requiring separate discussion. Moved by Councillor Bodner, seconded by Councillor Kenny. All those in favor? Carried. In favor are here, am I right? Carried unanimously. Madam Clerk, do we have some proclamations this evening? Mover and seconder on proclamation. January being Crime Stoppers of Niagara Month. All those in favor? Seconder, Councilor Demeray. Call for the question. All those in favor? Carried. We have minutes of boards, commissions, and committees. Madam Clerk, do you want to read those?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have the minutes of the Volunteer Committee meeting of October the 12th, minutes of the Senior Citizen Advisory Council of October the 20th, minutes of the Canal Days Advisory Committee meeting of October 19th and November the 16th.
I have a motion to accept those minutes. Motion, Councilor Butters, seconded by Councilor Datch. All those in favor? Carried. And their bylaws this evening, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, that the following bylaws be enacted and passed. Bylaw 6426-10616, being a bylaw to adopt a policy respecting Port Colborne Fire and Emergency Services fire prevention inspections and educational programs, and to repeal bylaw 60764214. Bylaw 6427-10716, being a bylaw to appoint a chief building official and a building inspector to act when the office of the chief building official is vacant. Bylaw 6428-10816, being a bylaw to authorize the temporary borrowing of $4 million for 2017. Bylaw 6429-10916, being a bylaw to establish penalty charges and interest charges on payments due to the municipality for 2017. Bylaw 6430-1106, being a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy for 2017. Bylaw 6431-11116, being a bylaw to authorize entering into an agreement with Port Colborne Marine Auxiliary Rescue for an office at Sugarloaf Marina. Bylaw 6432-11216, being a bylaw to confirm appointments to various committees. And finally, bylaw 6433-11316, being a bylaw to adopt, ratify, confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Port Colborne at its regular meeting of December 12, 2016.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a motion to approve those bylaws. Moved by Councilor Bodnar, seconded by Councilor Main. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. And at this time, I entertain a motion to go into closed session. The motion being that council do now proceed into closed session in order to address the following matters. Minutes of the closed session portion of the November 28, 2016 council meeting. Planning and Development Report 2016-174 regarding a legal opinion concerning a planning and potential law enforcement matter pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001, subsection 239(2)(f). Advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And in this indication, Sarah Permy, solicitor of the firm of Sullivan Mahoney, will be in attendance to provide legal advice regarding the above items. We have a second, or we have a call for someone to move those motion. Councilor Butters, a seconder, Councilor Kenny. All those in favor? Yep. Carried.